Hello and welcome to lesson 1 on contextualizing. This lesson is all about what is this word contextualizing. You've probably heard it before, but maybe you're not sure what it means. That's all right. We'll use an example. So let's say you have two students, Marco and Jason, and they got into a fight in the lunchroom. So we got to figure out who started that fight. Well, according to Marco, I was just standing in line waiting to pay for my food, and he shoved me like super hard for no reason. But Jason says, that kid is psycho. He turned around and punched me out of nowhere. How do we know who to believe? Well, we go and we look at some other sources. So we look at what the lunch lady has to say. She thinks it might be an accident. We look at what another student has to say. He says he's seen Marco and his friends be mean to Jason in the hallways and in class. We look at what someone who was there at the fight had to say. He was pretty far back in line, but he saw Jason and his friends being kind of loud and joking around. When we look at all these different sources, we want to contextualize. We want to figure out when and where did that source come from? Are they primary or are they secondary? So that we can know which one to believe. So for example, let's take James, a student who was far back in the line from our first example. So to contextualize what James had to say, we'd say, according to James, a primary source who was there at the fight. And then we'd give his quote. So we're not just putting the quote up and saying, this is true. We're saying, where did this come from? Was he there? Was he not there? So that we can know whether or not to trust him as a source. So when do you contextualize? Well, basically when you're writing, you want to contextualize after your first key idea and before your evidence. Anytime you're going to put a quote down, quote of evidence down, you want to contextualize and say where that quote is coming from. So for this example, we've got our claim about Ramses the Great. We've got our contextualizing, which says, according to a modern photograph of the Ramseum, which is the source title, a secondary source created by Tour Egypt, it's the author, or the name of the website in this case. And then we've got our quote from that source. So we're not just dropping the quote off and leaving. We're saying, where did that quote come from? So now it's your turn. Let's practice a little bit with some examples and find the contextualizing of the quote. So take a look at this example and see which sentence is contextualizing. And take a look at the second example. And again, tell us which part of the sentence is the contextualizing. All right, now you've learned a little bit about what is contextualizing. Hopefully you're ready to try it out for yourself. Good luck.